Alright, as promised, I've just got finished reading The Hidden Oracle, and I'm going to be doing a review of the first book in the Trials of Apollo series. Fair warning, this is not going to be a spoiler-free review. I do recommend going and reading it. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it's currently free to read, so this video is not going anywhere, so just come back when you've read it, or if you don't care about spoilers, just continue watching, I guess. I love this book. I am so glad I finally decided to skip reading Heroes of Olympus because I just couldn't get through The Lost Hero and skipped right to this. Apollo is one of the funniest Percy Jackson series, or just Rick Riordan series narrators ever, like second to Magnus Chase, who is my favorite of the narrators. He is just lovely. He actually has a character arc, which it just seems weird because I just recently read Magnus Chase, reread it again for like the fifth or sixth time, and this is gonna sound really bad, but Magnus is less of a character who needs to have an arc and become a better person, more as he is more of a camera to the wider cast. Magnus Chase works really well because it's more of an ensemble, especially with Magnus, Harf, Blitz, Samira, and then when Alex eventually comes Alex too. Compared to Magnus, who really doesn't need to improve as a person, his biggest issue is self-doubt at times. Apollo is really stuck up and self-centered, and you can see him gradually softening up throughout the story, and it's really good to see. I want to see him keep that going through the rest of the series, and I just have a little bit of hope. It's lovely. And we actually had some pretty intimidating villains this go around, with the Triumvirate, and it took a long time to, get the story going, but I kind of like that. Information was sort of gleamed slowly throughout the entire thing, and it took until right before the actual climax of the book for Apollo to put everything together, which you would think Apollo being a god, he would put things together, faster, but he's working with a mortal brain, and he's like, I can't reach the information. That is so relatable. Like, you know what you're thinking. It's just right out of reach, and you can't think of it. I do have one complaint, is I think it went on a bit too long after the climax. After they've defeated the automaton for this book, who serves as a villain. I think they could have ended at the scene at the end where Percy and Rachel are talking to Apollo at the top of the hill under the Athena statue, and sort of left it as a cliffhanger and left Leo's return for the next book. I just thought it would have been funny to end it on that cliffhanger. Like, Percy and Rachel have figured out what part of the prophecy means, but Apollo's still left in the dark, and probably us as the audience could probably figure it out as well. But it would have been funny just to leave it to the next book. But I'm not gonna say that's too bad, because we also got everyone just lining up to hit Leo. I loved it. And I think the title said that's like, you want to hit Leo, understandable, or something. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but all the titles are in haikus, and it took me way too long to figure that out, and I probably shouldn't, because I know Apollo likes haikus. But it took me to like chapter 5 to realize, oh, they're using haikus. I don't get haikus. I don't know what exactly they are exactly, so it's kind of lost on me. But back to the Leo thing. I'll overlook the fact that this may have done better as an opening to the next book, because it's such a funny scene. Everyone in Cap Half-Blood just forms a organized line to come and hit Leo. I love it. And Nico's just like controlling the line. He's like handing out like parts to places in the line, and he's just running the whole thing. Nico in this book is so I'm used to Nico being depressed as fuck, So seeing him actually seeming happy and like a normal teenager, I know that sounds horrible to say, but usually if Nico's on screen, he's going through some kind of emotional distress. Um, so this is nice to see him being happy. I also did not expect Chiron to fucking kick Leo in the stomach with one of his horse hooves. I don't think Nico actually got a turn to hit Leo. I was just waiting for that, and I don't think he ever did. But but they did point out that there's like dozens of more people over in Camp Jupiter who also would like to slap him. And despite all that, Leo is still ready to go and head west. I love Leo so much. He's honestly one of my favorite parts. I know I said I could not get through The Lost Hero to Save My Life. My only favorite parts of that book was Jason and Leo, and I know I'm setting myself up for complete and utter heartbreak soon. Oh god, that's gonna be hard. We also had, I don't know why there's so many fucking demigod betrayals in these books. Like, there's one at least every series. You had Luke, and I guess you could consider Selena as a traitor until she changes sides in the first book. And also all the demigods that ended up following Luke in the first series. And then in The Lost Hero, you had a subplot of Piper wondering whether or not she should betray Camp Half-Blood because the bad guys had captured her father, I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly. And in this one, you have Meg. And I'll tell you, I knew Meg existed. I did not know. I have had bits and pieces of the Trials of Apollo spoiled, but this betrayal with Meg I did not have spoiled. And it wrenched my heart. Because I loved Meg. She's just this little feral child. And I loved her. And that tore me apart reading that she was betraying Apollo. And then even after she goes against Nero, she still leaves. And it's like she's just walking into a situation. And I'm wondering what kind of situation Apollo's going to have to rescue her out of. Because Apollo knows that her last order was sort of like an open invitation to come and find her. Because I think deep down she knows that Nero's not going to forget this. But she's not ready to admit that because she's a child who has been emotionally abused by this person for a good chunk of her life, and she's not mentally ready to admit that to herself. So I'm really interested to see how that's going to play out.
Quick charge, y'all. Damn.
Dogs are going nuts. I am also like, Camp Half-Blood is supposed to be safe for demigods. How is it safe when the recreational activities are a 3-legged death race? Like the one winning thing is you get back without dying. I'm just like, who signed off on this? They ended up before the Sea of Monsters, they had discontinued chariot races because it was so dangerous. They only brought it back because Chiron wasn't there to stop it. Chiron, what the fuck are you thinking with your 3-legged death race in the fucking labyrinth? Oh, the labyrinth's not dangerous now that Daedalus is dead. No! Apollo literally gets yeeted to the cave of whatever where the Oracle of Delphi is supposed to be. And Python is there, and so is Nero. He could have easily been killed right there. Not to mention just every other thing in the aftermath, like, this one guy has his leg cut off, and apparently the last time they did a death race, he got both of his arms cut off, and it's just like, guys, Rick, did you forget that these characters can die? I'm not sure what to think about the casual mention of just limb decapitation. There's also a reference. I found it funny because I had read Magnus Chase first, and you would not have understood it if you had not read Magnus Chase first. I think these two series were coming out pretty much at the same time, where where Apollo references having met a god in a somewhere in Stockholm who had a sword that just wouldn't shut up. And if you've read Magnus Tish, you know that the sword he's talking about is Jack, or the Sword of Summer. Um, and I think Rick really just got into liking the idea of a talking weapon because Apollo gets a talking arrow that talks like a Shakespearean actor. The arrow of Dodona. It was just like, I was like, why not? We already have a magical singing talking sword. Why not a magical arrow? I'm having a blast of this. I want to know what happens with Meg, and I'm just trying to not go and check the wiki and spoil myself emotionally, but I'm impatient and I don't want to wait. I think that's all I wanted to talk about. It's been less of actual review and more just rambling. Also, Percy is done with the gods and I love it. There's one point where Paul says something about either killing him or stabbing him, and Percy's just like, don't tempt me. He's been put through so much shit. He just wants to graduate high school and get into college, so Annabeth won't kill him. I feel so bad for Percy. Like, they've put him through the ringer, and Apollo even somewhat mentions, Percy coming with him on this next part of the quest, and Percy's just like, no! He is done with quests. I feel you, Percy. I would be too if my life had been put in danger every freaking year since I was, 12. So Percy deserves his rest. So, gods, please leave him alone. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will be back with the next review once I finish reading the book.